This show contains adult-orientated content.
You're listening to Smegcast with Matt, Gary and Devon.
Turducken. Have you ever heard
Yeah, I've heard of this.
Turducken? You know what it is?
Yeah, this is like, it's like a turkey with a duck up its ass and a chicken up its ass, something like this,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, so it's I think the technical term is a deboned chicken,
Right.
inserted into a deboned duck,
Right.
inserted into a deboned turkey.
Shit.
So what that sort of got me thinking about was, because you sort of think about, clearly like there's three different kinds of meat, clearly three different types of flavour and things like that.
Yep.
Now, partly the reason why I want to talk about meat and things at the moment is just because Matt's not here and he's a vegetarian. So,
He is a vegetarian.
He
doesn't touch the meat.
doesn't touch the meat.
He's a good boy.
He touches other kind of meat.
He does.
But not the edible kind.
Only living meat.
Yeah, exactly. So, so with this turducken, it made me start to think, like, has there ever been a hybrid with like a chicken and a duck, for
Right.
example, or a turkey and a duck, or a turkey and a chicken, for example?
See, this fascinates me, this topic, because, the idea of, when I was a kid, you're reading all these books and you're seeing all these pictures, and a lot of animals look alike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They kind of, that looks like a horse. That's a horse with stripes.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So in your head as a kid, the first thing as a kid that you think about is like surely these things can have sex together.
Yeah.
It must be able to happen. And then your parents will quickly go, no, that doesn't work like that. It's God's world. And God doesn't allow things like that to happen. And then you still kind of go, hang on, there's got to be some intermingling going on.
You sort of wonder, because I know obviously, you can have like two different dogs can mate together or two different types of cats can mate together. But, but with sort of birds and ducks, I know a chicken's quite different from a duck in many ways, but it's still a bird.
You'd think there's a compatibility there,
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
Well, this has been the thing. There actually has been. It has actually happened.
Have they actually bred together?
There have been instances, and look, some of this I was looking back on records, and it goes back almost like 100 years.
I love you looking in records. You're in your apartment, and there's like records everywhere. I found it,
And one of the most recent ones was they named it Chuck. So it was part duck, part
Chuck
chicken.
the duck.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so part duck, part chicken.
So if I looked up Google and I typed in Chuck the duck, I would find it like a duck chicken hybrid.
So, but honestly, when you look at the picture, if you see it, if you do have a look, you'll see
Right.
an animal that does look a lot like a chicken. It's got the chicken head, the chicken legs. However, the body is much more sort of slender, like that of a duck.
Right,
And
okay.
apparently, we sort of reports from.
So is this a naturally bred thing, or did scientists cook?
No, it was
just.
I think just a random thing where someone probably had a little bit of a little farm or whatever, and
Right.
and the duck mated with the chicken.
Wow.
And and produced offspring. But there's actually been quite a few things. So I mean, if you certainly type in something like in Google, chicken hybrids or whatever, it has happened.
And
So-
that's how you have the best Thanksgiving.
And I'm just thinking, imagine that as a business though. Just imagine you straight away.
How are we going to make money off this?
The flavour, just the flavour of the chicken and duck in the
True.
in the one
Actually,
animal.
Because duck's good, chicken's good. I mean, there's a Chinese restaurant will pay a lot of money for that. As you probably know, listeners, we are talking today about the animal kingdom and all sorts of amazing things that the animal kingdom gives us. Now, Devon is here today because Devon, we're not really sure still where Devon's come from, but on his journey here, he has definitely picked up a lot of knowledge of the animal kingdom. So it just seemed a good fit that you would have to come here as well.
Yep.
But I did have a few for you. There was something I wanted to check. I wanted to check if you knew this existed.
Okay.
So because you know a lot more about stuff like this than I do, but
Yes.
I was doing a little bit of research, and it didn't take me long to find some really creepy stuff out there in the world as well. You're a dog person.
Yes.
So you know a lot about dogs.
Yes.
One of the things I found was called a raccoon dog.
Oh yes.
Have you heard of this?
Yes.
They are the coolest looking things. And as soon as I seen it, I thought, how have we not figured out a way to breed these and then make them pets?
Yeah.
They're absolutely lovely little things. They're vicious bastards from what I read.
Yeah.
But they're so creepy. It just looks like a dog mated with a raccoon, and then this thing came out.
Yep. They're almost a bit like a sort of like a red panda or whatever, aren't they?
Yeah.
Sort of quite sort of stocky, but still sort of got like the solid markings and things like that as well.
Totally, man. Totally. Like I looked a little bit on this up, right? And I just wanted to go through some facts with you about this, just while we're educating our fine listeners as well. Apparently the raccoon dog is native to Japan and China.
Yeah.
Right. But what's kind of funny about this is that, when the Soviet Union was going, after World War One, the Soviet Union's built and everything, and they had a massive fur shortage.
Okay.
In the Soviet Union, right?
Yes.
So in 1928, or I think from 1928 to 1958, somewhere around there, when the Soviet Union was kind of burning away, they actually kidnapped a bunch of these animals from like Japan.
Oh wow!
Right? Okay. They took them, and then they just started introducing them into their kind of tundra environment in eastern Russia.
Yeah.
And so they did this because they needed fur, which is kind of so bizarre. So now they actually have them, and they're kind of treated as nearly pests in Europe.
Oh, wow.
And they're still there.
Yeah.
And they only did that just because they were like, all right, we need some fur. Where are we going to get some fur? Oh, they got all these over here. They took them all over, and they started breeding them in their wildlands and stuff. And they used them all, and they chopped them up and used them for fur. Even now, you can still find these animals in places like... They moved from Russia. So you can find them in Germany.
Okay.
And your favorite country, you can find them in Sweden.
Wow.
They've actually got them in Sweden, and they've got some sort of law there that forbids you from breeding them because I don't think they're good for the environment.
But it was funny when you actually just mentioned that it was called a raccoon dog, right? Because the thing is, there's actually, just even with like normal purebred dogs, there is what they call like a coon hound, or there's actually a variety of different coon hounds.
Right.
That the Americans often use for hunting raccoons as well. So you got like the black and tan coon hound, the red bone coon hound.
So they're like hunting dogs.
Yeah, hunting dogs. So
right.
Quite lean. Some of them I think some are quite skilled at even like climbing up trees and things like that too.
So are you said these are like the ninjas of dogs?
Yeah.
Like if you were hunting something, like if a criminal was in the woods and you needed to find them, you need the cooning dog.
Well, I mean, you look at it, a raccoon already looks like a bandit, doesn't it?
It actually does.
With its little
it's a well dodgy looking animal. I mean, you look at that and you think that thing's going to be scalping tickets before a concert.
It's true.
There's something that's not right about that face. It's not, you know what I mean? Most dogs look cute, but you look at certain dogs and you're like, there's some dodgy shit going on in that dog's brain.
Yeah.
Humans, we like to push our own personalities onto the dogs. So I don't know if you subscribe to the idea that, if you're a criminal and you've done some dodgy shit in your life, you're going to have a dodgy looking dog.
Yes.
Like you're going to have a dog that a child is going to look at and go, I am so staying away from that dog.
Well, see, this has been the other thing too. I've been thinking about, because with all the past presidents in the US, they've always been given a dog. Or like they choose a dog, like Barack Obama had the Portuguese water dog.
You mean when they're in the White House?
Yeah, when they're in the White House.
So they actually get a dog?
Yeah, usually I think it's meant to be a bit of a tradition of choosing.
Right.
I think even I
never heard of that.
I think even Ronald Reagan, I think he had like a Bovie de Flanders, which is a big dog as well. And then I think Paul Clinton had Hillary. I think
so did George Bush have a cat? Is that what he like, I don't want a dog.
I think didn't someone had was it Socks or something like that? Was it cat? I think one of the prime ministers, or not prime ministers, presidents. But I've been waiting for Trump, to see if Trump gets a dog. I kind of because
he would probably marry it and then divorce it 10 years later, and then it would sue him for $500 million. So he probably doesn't want a dog.
Well, see, the thing was, I was sort of going down two paths with Trump and the first sort of dog in the White House for him, and I was thinking,
right,
because I kind of pictured a lot of time Donald Trump sitting on a throne, but either side of him is maybe like a German Shepherd and a Rottweiler, and
he's got his hands on them.
Yeah, like an evil overlord kind of thing, and I sort of pictured perhaps one's called Klaus and one's called Barbie as well.
Don't upset Klaus.
Yeah. And but then the other thing was, I thought, because I think sometimes people like the Americans do actually sort of nominate something that might be a good choice.
Most people will be worrying about their health care, but you would be like, what kind of dog is he going to get as a big choice?
Well, I thought, because let's put it this way, he's not a fan. We all know he's not a fan of Mexicans, and he's not a fan of Muslims, right?
That's true.
So, for example, there is a breed from Mexico called the Mexican hairless dog, right? So I thought he could have a Mexican hairless dog, but call it Muhammad. Just stroking this hairless dog, And
so it's a tremendous dog. Just a tremendous dog. Yeah, he would be great. Have you seen my dog? His name is Mohammed. He's from Mexico. Yeah, after him, no one else gets in. I was thinking, I've talked about Donald Trump pretty much every week for the past few weeks, and he hasn't. I don't have anything for you this week. I'm all right. I was just thinking, I don't think I've heard any real news from the Trump world, and usually I can't really get 5 minutes into talking about something before something else happens.
Well, see, luckily I provided you with that little bit of tidbit.
I thank you, Devon. I'm glad that you covered that topic because and I was thinking, why have I got nothing for Donald Trump this week? And then I thought, well, he's actually been touring around, doing things in different countries this week. He's been doing the Trump World Tour. And what I think is kind of hilarious is that, like, I'm sure in Washington, they're like, thank God we got a break.
Yeah.
We got him out. He's busy for the next week, so let's do some real work.
See, I picture people in the White House sliding around in shirts and socks, just like Tom Cruise in Risky Business.
Yeah, just rolling around in those office chairs having races and shit. Yeah, no, they're like, thank fuck he's gone. Now he's back. It's like, oh, okay, we're back to the fucking doldrums of trying to clean up this guy's messes as well. Different topic.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about this, though. Just on dogs, because I know you're a big dog fan as well. I've been looking up something that I guess kind of looks like a dog in many ways. Its official name is this. How do you say that?
Thylacine.
Thylacine. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not very good at pronouncing that stuff, but it's also known as the Tasmanian tiger.
Yes.
Right. Now, so do you know a lot about this?
I know a pretty bit.
A good
fair bit about it.
You've got a smile on your face. Like, I've got it covered. I've been reading a little bit about this. It's kind of a fascinating thing. But one thing I do know is that it's not a tiger.
Yes.
So you know this. So it's not actually, it's called a tiger, but it's not part of the cat family.
No, it's a marsupial.
Right.
So that's actually one thing that's always interesting about Australia is pretty much, I think pretty much every native animal in Australia either comes from an egg,
right,
or a pouch.
Really?
Yeah.
So like almost everything, like mammal-wise.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Because even, because you think about it, with things that come from eggs would be pretty much, all your lizards, your snakes.
Birds, I guess.
The birds.
Yeah.
Then echidna, platypus as well, because I think they're the only egg-laying mammals, which is, quite an ancient sort of trait.
Yeah.
And then you sort of got then all, your kangaroos, wombats, koalas.
Yeah, right.
And then Tassie devil and the thylacine, or the Tasmanian tiger.
So it comes from, because it's a pouched dog, essentially. But the famous story around the thylacine or the Tasmanian tiger, and I just looked this up even today, and I was still reading about it. It's like but the idea is that it officially was extinct and wiped out back in the 30s.
Yes.
But they're still talking about that it might be around now.
Yeah.
Like they're still got people going, it's still about.
Because I think an animal is not allowed to be declared to be extinct unless there's been sightings within the past 50 years or whatever. Or
right.
So I think it actually, even though I think the last one was supposedly died in like the 30s, I think it was probably in the 1980s.
Right.
Where they then officially declared it properly extinct.
Aye, so that, but it's still, people are still talking about seeing it though.
Yeah.
There was an article I just looked up earlier today, and it was from March this year.
Yeah.
And there was a load of people, I think they must have been camping or something. They were in far north Queensland, the very top of the east coast of Australia, and they claimed that during nighttime, they had a torch, and they actually found like one of these.
Yeah.
They found them as like a dog with a pouch essentially, and they got up really up close to it. And then they've kind of put on paper and told a lot of papers, I guess, that they described it to a lot of people that know about these things. And apparently it sounds really legitimate. Like they say there actually is, because these things were all around Australia, weren't they?
Yeah, I think they were spread over, Tasmania, the main continent of Australia, and New Guinea, I think.
This story was pushed so much that I think the Richard Dawkins, the very famous Darwinian biologist, even tweeted that has the thylacine been seen alive? And I want it to be true.
Yeah.
He really, even someone like him is extremely excited at the idea that this thing would still be around.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of people in the world has their fingers crossed that it's true.
Yeah, look, in all honesty, I think it'd be nice, but I think in reality,
it's probably unlikely.
I think it's highly unlikely because, you think about it now, Tasmania's had a population of people and, there's been cars and trucks and things like that. They got
electricity there now.
Exactly. Yeah,
they got iPhones.
I think that came in just a few years ago.
Yeah. I think the iPhone, the first iPhone in Tasmania was given to a Tasmanian on the 1st of March. I read that too. Just this year. And it's just one person.
And
just one guy has it. Yeah. He's a celebrity there now,
And he can't text anyone.
No, it's true. And he's no signal,
But no, the thing is, because I'm sort of thinking if there were ones out there, surely something would have been run over by a truck or a car on the many, many roads that are scattered right.
I love Devon's like, he's like, surely we would have hit one on the bonnet by this point.
And the thing was too, part of the reason why, a lot of the farmers in the day shot them all was because they almost were a bit like they were a predator or a bit of a scavenger as well. So they were, apparently stealing chickens and killing sheep and lambs and things like that. So you would sort of also think, like an animal like a fox, for example, in a lot of parts of the world, make their way into suburbia, for example, to eat scraps and whatever else. You would sort of think they may have, kind of been ventured a little bit sort of closer to maybe humans as well. But then, mind you, Tasmania is a very, heavily forested place as well.
Still pretty rural. I mean, it could be, but I didn't know this. You touched on it, but one thing I've learned is that the government, I think it was the Australian government, they actually paid people to actually shoot these things.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So that's what actually, for me, is just,
that's amazing.
Amazing. But what I sort of find amazing is that no one in that time actually sort of thought, oh, shit, we're actually killing off something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing was too, Australia back in those times was even they were killing Aboriginals, because they saw Aboriginals as a animal or a threat,
essentially.
So
it just shows you the level of crap you can have in your brain that can justify something. It's pretty severe.
So those people, they would have been, many of them probably would have been descendants of convicts in those days as well. They really, so the thing was, they probably really would have been something like a sheep or a cow or a calf or whatever was probably, highly valued to them. But I'm just amazed that nobody in that time sort of thought, well, geez, we
should cut back on this.
We should cut back a little bit.
Yeah, we're shooting. I mean, we're literally shooting thousands of these things. We should probably just hold back a bit. But it was considered vermin. I think, honestly, I think it was quoted as being, we have classified this animal, we've had a talk about it, and we classify it as vermin.
Yeah.
And then it was classified from vermin to endangered, straight away.
Yeah.
And I just love how someone would just kind of go, you know what, it's not vermin anymore.
Yeah.
It's endangered. We're running out of them. Probably the seed of it being vermin probably never left.
Yeah.
And then that's when we just lost all of them.
See, one thing I often heard with different stories about it was where people who had claimed to have seen it may have often been camping or whatever with their dogs, and apparently dogs.
That's what I read. Yeah.
And dogs are often almost a little bit scared of them.
Right.
There's a little bit of an uneasy.
Well, that's because the tiger is essentially a dog anyway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if a dog sees another dog, it's probably going to see it as a threat.
But the funny thing is too, actually, with a lot of it, when you do look at it, especially with some of the old videos that you'll see, or clips on YouTube or whatever, and you look at the movement of it, it actually was quite kangaroo-like.
Right.
Because it actually had a stiff tail.
Right.
As well. And one of the other things too is, a lot of the pictures, you'll see it walking on all fours, but there's different images where you actually will see it sort of stand on its hind legs, reaching up onto the cage.
Well, I'm actually looking at a picture now, and it does have a really significant kind of bone on the back leg, the way a kangaroo kind of has, doesn't it?
See, and basically what would happen is a lot of the time it could actually walk or rest on those, what I think they might call it the hock bone, which is that sort of joint. So yeah, more or less like a kangaroo. So when you look at a kangaroo, it's almost like a big long foot and then a big hip bone. So they could actually sort of almost rest up on that and then sort of reach up as well. So there was actually sort of kangaroo-like traits with it as well. But
it's fascinating though. I mean, there's such a myth nearly around this beast now that people are going out. Apparently, they have cameras around far north Queensland now to try and camera traps to try and track it down. My thing, I don't think a lot of people believe it's true, but my thinking is that, if you were going to find this thing, it would be somewhere maybe where you wouldn't be looking for it.
Yeah.
In a rural area like kind of the North Queensland area, which is pretty rural and it's not very dense.
Yes.
So I don't know, maybe it is true. I mean, a lot of people have their fingers crossed, so, who knows? So just to go back quickly to what we were talking about on the raccoon dog.
Yes.
Because I do want to get this out there. The raccoon dog. So the way I told you that they introduced this to Russia, and then they ended up using it for fur, and that's what they wanted it for because nobody in Russia had any fur, and it was damn cold in Russia. Yeah. They needed fur really badly. So it was quite funny. Recently, I read up on the raccoon dog, and some clothing companies, including P. Diddy's.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Great clothing company. What's it called? Sean John?
Yeah.
Sean John. I don't own anything from Sean John, but if you do, it's good. You should know this. This is good information for you. Apparently, they were selling garments that were labeled as fake fur or faux fur.
Yeah.
But in reality, they did an investigation and they realized that the fur that they were classifying as fake fur actually had raccoon fur in it.
Okay.
So they were kind of sued, or there was a lot of legalities came into place suddenly because of the fact they were using actual fur and then labeling it as fake fur. So shame on you, Sean John. Shame on you, Devon. You have another topic I know you wanted to bring up.
Yes. Well, let's take a trip to Germany.
Let's take a trip. All right, I'm strapping myself in.
With those 99 Luftballons and everything else.
To the wonderful German countryside. Are we going in the countryside, or where are we going?
I think we're actually going to go somewhere where there's a bit of nobility, maybe some aristocrats.
Oh, right.
Something like that.
So. Oh, right. Some high-level German shit. Let's do it.
Yeah, well, look, one of the things is, now, this is one of my personal little tips, somewhat German-related as well. Now, a lot of households, for example, want a pet, for example. You know, a lot of people sort of can't decide. You know, you might have the husband wants a dog, but the wife wants a cat, for example.
The eternal struggle.
You know, and it's just always like, you know, what do we choose? What do we choose? It's always so difficult. In Germany, there's a dog. Now, it's not a raccoon dog.
Okay.
It's called, its proper pronunciation is the Löfken.
Löfken. Right.
Which means little lion dog. But I think most people here would probably call it a Lauchen.
Right,
just
right.
Because, you know.
So spelled Lowchen.
Correct.
Okay, right.
So the little lion dog basically is a dog that, it is obviously a dog.
Are you trying to save marriages with this?
I am. It's a compromise. It's a good compromise, I think, for a lot of households. You know,
right.
A lot of women, you know, like something cute and fluffy and whatever else. But this dog,
right.
It's basically, but one of the things was sort of a lot of the wealthy people back in the day in Germany, you know, it was quite a cold time. They wanted to be kept warm. So they used to use one of those little dogs and they used to shave the backside because that way you had more skin-to-skin contact. So that way, you know, you would keep warm during those cold winter nights. And essentially it was a dog.
So all right, let's just go back a bit.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're going to be up, but like, so they would shave the dog down.
Yep.
In like when? The 19th century?
Yep.
Well, I mean, they didn't have electric razors back then, you know, so they would have had to have got a manual fucking thing and then start shaving it.
Yep.
And the reason they're shaving it is so that they can get the warmth of the dog.
Exactly.
Wow, that's creepy.
Exactly. So
I mean, if I walked in on like an old 19th century castle in Germany at night and I walked in and I saw an 80-year-old man shaving a dog's backside,
Yep.
I would probably go back out. That is creepy. That is creepy. It's a nice looking dog though. I'm not the biggest dog fan. I just find they need attention all the time.
Yeah.
Like I can't give a dog the attention it needs. You know what I mean?
How about a pig?
A pig maybe.
Because you know what they say? Like they say, cats look down on people.
Right.
Dogs look up to people. But pigs treat you as an equal.
Okay, do they?
Yeah, that's apparently what they say.
That's really good, yeah. I remember I heard a really good story from George Clooney. He owned a pig.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he actually had a pet pig. And when he was in his house, there was an earthquake.
Yeah.
And he was just getting up, so he was naked. So apparently he was like, you know, and they tell you if there's an earthquake, you got to get between the door frame.
That's right.
And that's the way you survive. So he was butt naked and he grabbed this pig and it was him and the pig and they were like just in between the door frame, just hanging on to survive. And he had this image where like, imagine if he died like that.
Yeah.
They would be like, what happened to George Clooney? And then they'd dig him up and he'd just be dead with his dick next to this pig. You know?
Can you just imagine the newspapers?
George Clooney dies fucking pig.
Or it'd be like George Clooney makes his bacon. Yeah.
So have you ever heard of these things? These are the two deadliest lions like nature history, there was kind of a famous thing about them. They're called the Tsavo man-eaters.
Yes, I have heard that.
Yeah, it's quite a famous thing. But at the very end of the 19th century, in what Kenya is now, I think back then it was called Tsavo, or there's an area called Tsavo in it.
Yeah.
And the idea is that they were, the British companies were all building railways over there.
Yes.
And then these two tigers, they're maneless.
Yes.
They were really famous for just killing everything. And they used to stalk human beings.
Yes.
And they did this for a period of a year. So you used to be sleeping in your tent. And these things, or at least one of them, used to go in, grab you, pull you out. And then the two of them would eat you about a couple of 100 feet from where you were sleeping as well.
Yeah.
And it was a fascinating piece of history. And then they had a guy write a book about it, and he was the one that killed both of them as well.
Yes.
But they used to describe that they'd have people in tents, and then somebody would be taken away from the tent, like down the road, and they'd hear their bones crack as the lions were eating them. Have you heard of how incredible these things are?
Yeah, but it is funny because there are animals like tigers and lions where some of them actually do enjoy, I think, the thrill of the chase and the actual kill.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, people sort of think, the animals, we just kill purely for food. But there's a lot of times where, I know a while back, there was something I saw where there was a man who had some young or somewhat tame tiger cubs.
Right.
And he wanted to sort of try and, introduce them into the wild again. But I think actually he was doing it in Africa, so it was actually totally wrong continent.
Right.
But he tried to introduce them into a reserve. Now, the thing was these tigers hadn't learnt the skills.
Well, they also didn't have a mother either.
Exactly.
Which I guess that's where all that hunting and that, all the skills, they all come from, parentage, don't they? Yeah.
So more or less he was like trying to sort of teach them how to hunt. So there was things where, because sometimes like those tigers, they didn't sort of, they know there's food in front of them, but they can't relate it to the actual animal, for example.
Right.
So what he was trying to do was train them on how to hunt. So he would be doing simple things like, for example, he might have got, just say, a big leg of an animal, for example, just say off a buffalo or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And he attached it to a lure and that would be dragged along. So he would sort of train them, they need to chase something.
You actually need to get that.
Yeah, and then when you bite it, that's actual flesh.
Yeah.
So he started to slowly, go on further and further and, took the step a little bit further. And one of the things...
That's a huge amount of work,
It
isn't it?
was. It was a big project.
Because you're right. If you just give them some meat, they're not going to be able to, understand that the reward system of getting meat is linked to the work you need to put into hunting something.
Exactly.
If they don't make that connection, you're basically putting in Pee Wee Herman in the jungle, really, aren't you? Like, it's just
Spot
useless.
On. So he sort of basically went, through his whole process on how to train them up. And one of the things he ended up doing was, it took a while, but he ended up bringing in like a flock of ostriches. So he must have had about 10 or 12 ostriches. And I think from memory, there was maybe 3 young tigers. So they probably would have been maybe a year or 18 months of age, these tigers.
Yeah, right.
And so then what he thought was, okay, let's let them all loose and let's see what happens.
Wow.
And
how many did he let loose too?
I think there was 3 tigers and I think there was about 10 or 12 ostriches.
Jeez.
And they just unleashed on them. They just pounced
They
them.
killed all the ostriches?
Killed all of them, not just like killed one, like, because you'd sort of think, and you see on a lot of animals.
You think I'll eat one.
Let's go
That's
for
enough.
one. But they actually started to enjoy it and they literally killed all of them.
Wow.
Even though they could really probably only eat one as a group, they killed all of them, all in one go. And they just went on an absolute killing spree.
Holy crap.
So...
well, it just shows you. So, like, were they killing things not just to eat them? They were just killing them just to kill them.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what these Tsavo man-eaters are almost famous for in a way, is that, the amount of, they weren't just stalking, like, food. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. I think it's Colonel John Henry Patterson. And he was the guy that wrote the book on it. And he shot the 2 lions after a lot of stuff. But man, the amount of work that they actually had to do to capture them. They used to hide in trees and just wait for these things to appear. Imagine waiting in a tree until a man-eating lion appeared so you could have a go at it in the middle of Africa.
But see, that's the thing too. We haven't lived in Africa. We haven't lived around large animals like that. But can you just imagine like walking out of your hut and then just walk around the corner and there... Because, let's put it this way, a lion it's a big animal.
And it stalks things, isn't it?
And you imagine just walking around the corner, bang, there's one staring right at you.
Oh, so much. Imagine the fear. And when they were saying that they were being stalked, like there was a lot of stuff that Patterson had talked about where he would go out and he would feel that he was stalked.
Yeah.
Like it would be nighttime, which is when they would hunt, when everybody couldn't see them. And this is like the 19th century. I mean, they did it in there wasn't like lights everywhere. I mean, it was pitch black.
I think a tiger or a lion would probably enjoy eating Matt.
He probably would.
And you know why? Just because I thought, Matt's lived his life as a vegetarian, right?
Right.
So, he's like pretty much like eats a lot of grains and things like that. So he'd be pretty much grain fed.
Yeah.
But then even though Matt
He's
wears...
free range, Matt, isn't he?
Exactly. But even though, he wears like a lot of sports gear in his Liverpool football jersey and things like that, he doesn't really do any sport.
No.
So he's he'd be quite sort of like tender as well.
Yeah.
Maybe. So
he doesn't have that tough meat.
He's like full on like grain-fed tender meat. There'd probably be some nice marbling through the flesh, like it'd be like a piece of Wagyu, like a nice fine piece of Wagyu beef,
Like I think Matt would taste good to a lion.
Yeah.
I think if a lion ate that, it would spoil all other humans for lions. It'd be like, I can't find anything that was quite as good as Matt. Remember the time we had Matt?
Oh, that was great.
What a day.
God, there was a lot of whinging for that kill, but...
That was worth it, though. But that was it. I thought that was fascinating. The Tsavo man-eaters, check it out. They made a cool movie about it, too.
I thought that when you were talking about it, I thought there'd been a movie about it.
Yeah. Michael Douglas, Val Kilmer.
Yes.
And it was it's not a fantastic movie. It was a good adventure movie. The one thing, though, they didn't capture in that movie is what we just talked about, was the idea that, like, the fear of actually being stalked by a lion. And the way lions stalk stuff in like, documentaries, I mean, it's all right to look at them stalking, like, a weak antelope or whatever it is. But if that's you... that's a whole other level of fear. And, I read this. I don't know. Measurements in animals. I looked this up. These animals, one of them that they killed, it was nearly 10 feet long.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
That's big.
I think of a 10-foot lion, and I think, holy shit, that's a lot of meat.
Yeah.
That is a big lion. It was 10 feet long, nearly, what have I got? Yeah, it's nearly 3 meters.
Yeah.
That's huge. Imagine seeing that thing come at you. I mean, if you imagine that thing attacking you, the power of a 3 meter thing coming at you and jumping on you, that would kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, I remember years ago I was in Austria, in what they call the Tiergarten,
right?
Which is sort of like a famous zoo. I think it's actually one of the royal palaces there. I think it actually may have even actually back in the day may have been one of the king's actual private zoos, but then over time it's been opened up.
Like
to
the King of Austria.
Yeah, the King of Austria at the time. And I remember actually looking at one of the exhibits, and there was...
Is it still a zoo now?
It's still a zoo.
Ah, okay.
Yep. It's open to the public and things like that. But there was one section there where it was sort of the lion enclosure. Now, this was quite a good zoo, because I remember with this one, it had big glass panels. So literally, the lion could walk right up to you, and all you really had was probably a couple of inches of thick glass separating you. And I remember standing there looking at the lion, and there was a little child on a little tricycle. And the little kid's just banging its front wheel of the tricycle up against the glass, right? And the lion's just standing there staring at it. Then the lion got...
I'm going to eat you.
Well, the thing was, next minute, the lion got its paw into the soil, and in one foul swoop, you wouldn't believe how much it dug out with just using one movement of the paw.
Right.
I mean,
like a hole, like trying to get in there.
Yep, it would have dug under that glass to get the kid.
Shit.
And I just remember, because honestly, when you looked at it, the size of the paw almost looked like the size of like a large pizza base almost. Yeah,
it's huge.
And in just one movement, the amount of soil it dug up with just that one foul swipe. And I thought, geez, and I thought,
But you imagine that's just one movement, as you say. Imagine if that thing really like put its mind to something and thought, well, I'm getting this.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, I was reading like 10 feet. I mean, that's insane sizes. When they killed the first one, his book said that it took 8 people to carry this thing.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to keep it. He wanted to keep it as a prize, a trophy.
Trophy.
Exactly. But like 8 grown men it took to move that lion.
Well, they can be like hundreds of kilos too.
Oh, it was full on. I mean, and they still actually, you can see them. They're in the Chicago Museum now. I think there's a natural history museum in Chicago, and they actually have the lions on display there, or they have their skulls there. Apparently, allegedly, this thing killed 135 people.
Yeah.
which I think has been debunked somewhat. I think it's around the 40 mark, 30 mark. But that's a lot. That's just people.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing didn't go for anything else.
Well, you know how like we've sort of domesticated dogs from the wolf, which is basically the largest of the dog breeds,
Right.
species. Thank God we didn't do it with like lions or tigers.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, can you imagine the litter box? Imagine the shovel you would need to clean out that little litter box.
That's a lot of shit.
Oh,
I mean, if you had a 10-foot fucking lion domesticated in your house, now if you think about the ratio of this,
yeah.
10 feet. I mean, let's think about this. Like if a cat poos now, right? It's probably like what, like 10% of its body or 5% of its body.
Very small. Yeah.
Very small. But like if you had a 10-foot cat in your house, I mean, you're talking about a 1-foot shit.
Yeah.
That's a lot of shit. I mean, and that's just one. Like if your cat shits 3 times a day, like that's basically like, what's that, 3 feet a day of shit.
And look, some cats too, they like to spray as well. So like, you know, sometimes they like to spray on, you know, couches and things like that. So can you imagine they're sitting watching TV and your pet lion walks up to you and then thinks it sprays? Psh,
Yeah, kitty.
okay, and just imagine being drenched in that much piss. I mean, you need to wear like you need to be walking around the house wearing like a poncho or maybe having an umbrella on hand
And you
or
know,
something.
and your cat will always shit somewhere it's not supposed to shit.
Yeah.
You can imagine, you know, and you step on it and you just go, oh God.
Yeah,
I mean, if this thing was if you had 3 foot of shit in your house, you wouldn't just step on it. You would fall over and fall into a fucking pool of shit. Oh my God.
Well, imagine like, you know, waking up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet or whatever, you know, and you put your feet down, you think it's like a pair of slippers waiting by your bedside and you slip your foot in. Oh, great.
Oh my God. Kitty.
And then you go, geez, it's warm.
I swear I'm going to
It's
fucking
warm.
kill that cat. I'm thinking that cat's going to kill you, mate. That thing's like 10 fucking feet big. They had a great story around this whole, Tsavo tiger thing where like they kind of asked for help to kill it. And, you know, because obviously, Devon, if you're in the middle of Africa and you're a big hunter, you're a tall man.
Yes.
But you can't kill 2 massive 10-foot tigers on your own. You need to call some fucking guy to come and help you. So, like, this guy just got off the train and just died.
Yeah.
Like apparently he was on his way to the camp to help them, but he got killed on the way. So they didn't even know what happened to him. They were like, where is he? He's supposed to be here helping me kill these tigers. And the guy apparently got killed on the way to the camp, which is just great. You just think these tigers were like, I think that's the guy he's been talking about. Let's kill him early.
Yeah.
You know? They had a reason why, or they thought they had a reason as one of the many reasons why these things ate people.
Okay.
So I thought I'd run this by you.
Yeah, go for it.
You're in sync with the animal world.
I know.
This might make sense to you. So one of the ones, there's a lot of different reasons why they thought that these Tsavo tigers ate loads of men. One of them is that they studied both of the dental work, or the dentures
Yes.
of both of these man-eaters.
Okay.
These lions. I keep saying tigers. I should probably say lions, because are they lions? Yeah, they're lions. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So if I have said tigers, just fucking ignore that. They're fucking lions. So anyway, they studied the dentures of both of these lions, right? And the funny thing is that they realized that both of them had really, really, really bad teeth.
Okay.
Like really bad teeth. Like I can't know for sure, but they have like abscesses and all this sort of like really, it looked painful.
Yeah.
They didn't have good teeth. So one of the theories they had is that it was easier to eat men than some of the tougher animals that were out there in the wild that they would have regularly hunted. It really wasn't that they wanted to specifically hunt Matt or people like him. It was,
he would have been so tender. Like, I mean, they would have been lapping him up.
yeah, but like, it's just the fact that they just went, I can't handle that. This is so much easier to eat. It's basically like me going, you know, I'm going to have a salad today because I just can't take steak. It's a bit tough. So really, we were just salad for about a year in Africa, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now, look, one of the things I thought I would do is we've seen we're talking about animals. I thought I'd even talk a little bit about genetics. Now, one of the things is there's a gene, right?
Right.
Called the Merle gene.
Right.
So it's MERLE for those who are...
And you mean gene is in genetics, not like a pair of genes.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's a gene that gives almost like a denim kind of look. Now, what it is basically is it's a gene called the Merle gene, which is often common in certain breeds of dogs.
Okay.
So, for example, if you have a dog that's black and it has this Merle gene, it effectively has this bleached-like patchwork over the coat. So, therefore, where that bleach work that bleached area is, it sort of might be like a paler blue. Or if you've got a dog that's like a dark chocolate brown,
right?
If it has that merle gene, it will have like lighter sort of coffee coloured areas on it.
So just to take that step, so if they don't have this gene, then they'll just be like all white or all black or whatnot.
They'll just be a normal solid colour.
Yeah, like no flecks or anything. Yeah.
Exactly. So one of the breeds that I always find quite interesting is, and we're going to take a trip.
Okay.
We're going to take a trip down south.
I'm ready, Devin.
Down to Louisiana.
Okay.
Near the bayous.
Oh, Louisiana. The music, the culture.
The Cajun.
Cajun food.
Was it the Cajun food?
All
things like
all
that.
those burnt meats. You know, a lot of burnt meats, a lot of pepper, some cumin, a lot of that.
A bit of gator flesh as well. I think they'd be cooking up some gator. There'd be some turtle.
A banjo or two. Surely a few banjos.
There'd be some cousins mating. There'd be
sure.
A few things.
Too far,
like
Devin. You just had to do it.
But there is a breed of dog, which is actually the state dog of Louisiana, called the Louisiana Catahoula leopard dog.
Wow, that's quite a mouthful. That
it is. It's a nice long name.
You couldn't say that fast.
So for me, what I actually like about this particular dog is
they couldn't have shortened that. They couldn't have just made it. Surely there's a shorter name than that. I'm just saying. It's just like that's a fucking long name.
I think they still call it like the Catahoula leopard.
Okay, right,
something like that.
The Catahoula leopard. Okay, that's easier. Sorry, mate. I can't contain all those words. The Catahoula leopard. All right. So the Catahoula leopard. So I've just looked this up on Google, and I can kind of see it there. It look very, very. It does look bleached.
Yep.
Actually.
So you imagine, right? If you're a person who loves your denim,
right.
That would be the perfect dog for you. Because when you look at it, like it's got that sort of naturally occurring sort of bleach-like effect, just like a pair of like acid wash jeans.
And by that extension, it should be twice the price as a normal solid color dog. Really, let's be honest. Like if you're going to bleach a dog, I mean, it's going to be like, no, mate, you're going to pay twice for that. You know, bleaching dogs in today's world is not that easy.
But see, what's good about that dog is, I mean, basically there is sort of rules when it comes to the merle gene.
Okay.
So you can never mate, and this is quite an important thing. It's almost like, when you talk about gremlins, don't feed them after midnight.
Right.
Don't get them wet. With two dogs, if you've got two dogs that are merle, you are never to mate them together.
Really?
Yeah. Regardless of if they were different breeds, if they had the same merle gene colouring, they cannot be mated together. Because what actually happens is it can produce a dog that's basically...
I mean, you say can't, like it's like one's from the future and it meets itself. And if they touch each other, then the space-time continuum ceases to exist.
Well, there's actually quite bad effects of what actually can happen.
Right. Well, what happens?
So what happens is it basically, because it's like you're effectively doubling up on this gene that's like a bleaching kind of effect, it can actually produce a dog that's predominantly white.
Right.
Now, what can happen is the dog means it often has no pigment, so it can have like a pink nose, which means it's prone to sunburn.
Is that like a albino dog?
It's pretty much, got a lot of its pigment missing. It often will be deaf. That's one of the things. And one of the things will often be it can have severe eye problems.
Wow.
So often it can either have very small eyes, maybe somewhat deformed eyeballs.
That's pretty full on to be like blind and deaf.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a good start.
Exactly.
If you're a dog, you're like, well, there's two things, you're going to need those.
So it is actually like for anyone who was to have a dog that is a merle dog, it is it's considered to be like highly irresponsible.
But here's a question, right? I mean, you're a dog person. You know more about dogs than I know about everything in the world. Have you ever thought you could be a dog doctor? Like like those people on TV where they their dog is causing people grief. Like it eats my cushions. Every time I buy a new cushion, it eats the cushion. And then they hire a Doc Devon, and Devon comes in, and you will like hypnotize the dog, and the dog will be like fucking, like it will be lobotomized. It's like he was a very reasonable dog. We chatted it out, and now he's not going to chew your cushions anymore.
So my tip would be if your dog's chewing up the cushions, take the cushions away.
That's Devon's tip. Is like,
but
if your dog is wrecking your house, just get rid of the house.
Exactly.
And then everything's all good.
Just live in a tent.
Just don't breed two dogs that look like they've got freckles. Just don't do that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the dog world, isn't there? Lots of stuff I didn't know.
And so, anyone who does ever purchase a dog, be mindful of those type of things, because that merle gene, it can be quite a serious thing if it does double up.
There you go. Wow, that is good information, Devon. And that's what happens in Louisiana.
That's what happens. You sort of don't really think much happens there, but but one of the
there's a lot of fucking deaf and blind dogs there.
But see, one of the good things about that dog too is
Right.
I personally consider it.
What about the deaf and blind dog?
No.
You're like,
But
there's a great thing about that dog because he doesn't give me grief at all.
But the one thing I do think is quite interesting about that breed, the Louisiana Catahoula leopard dog,
Okay.
nice long name,
right.
is I personally think it's almost what I would call almost pure perfection in a breed. It's a mixture of, I believe, the red wolf from America.
Right. It's like the red wolf. That's like a big hunting wolf, isn't it? Like, are they like they're like man-eating wolf.
Yep. So that's the ones you would see like in perhaps like Yellowstone National Park or something like that.
Right.
And also it has an element of hound dogs in it as well. So it's almost covering
It's like a pina colada dog, that.
Exactly, but it's taken all the best bits and put it into one great dog.
You know, you're talking about stuff where I'm like, there's a lot going on. This all happens in Louisiana. Oh my God.
That's the thing. It's the one-stop shop for...
It really is. Louisiana, good on you, Louisiana. If you're listening to this and you're from Louisiana, just send us an email. Let us know what you think of Devon's dog theory. Well, it's not theory; it's fact, isn't it?
It is fact.
It's actually fact. You know, I was thinking. You just mentioned Yellowstone Park. I was thinking about this. Like any animal that I wouldn't want to meet in person.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of those, but there's one I definitely wouldn't want to meet in person. It would be the brown grizzly bear.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like from what I know of, they can smell a sandwich from like 15 miles away.
See,
something crazy. Like you could be. I mean, you don't even have to make a whole sandwich. You could just be slicing the bread just to start a sandwich, and it's like there's bread nearby. I'm gonna go and get that bread. And you know, according to what I hear, like you could go camping, and these things will know where the fuck you are all the time. It's pretty in Yellowstone Park and places like that. I mean, they're all over the place.
See, it's funny because what you're scared of is very different to what I'm scared of.
Well, what are you scared of then?
Peacocks.
You don't like peacocks?
Peacocks.
Why? What's wrong with a peacock?
I can't stand those things. I'm pretty tolerant of a lot of things, but I just me and peacocks do not. You'd think, you know, it's meant to be quite a glamorous.
Well, they're not
bird.
death-defying birds, are they?
Have you ever looked at a peacock's foot? They've got like freaking long talons and all sorts of things.
Really?
Yeah, they're like an asshole in disguise.
Jeez.
You know, they're just...
Well, I do enjoy a bird that lets you know when it's really horny. You know, which is essentially what it's doing.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty much...
basically it's going like, I am horny now, and the tail goes out, and it's like, oh, he's looking some. Honestly, honest question though. If you were in the woods,
yes,
in the dark,
yes, no
campfire, you don't have a rifle, what would you not want to be stalking you or hunting you down?
Matt,
that's a good thing. It's funny, he said the same thing about you.
Yeah, I know.
He would be like, I would rather have a fucking lion than him.
Yeah, I know.
Anything but Devon and I'm all good. You'd just be sitting there.
You could just imagine him sitting here where he'd be sort of going, this guy makes me feel uncomfortable. Why do we bring him here?
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. But thank you, Dev. Thank you for taking us to Louisiana. And yeah, wow, we've traveled a bit today, man.
We have traveled. We've gone to Europe. We've gone to Africa.
We went to Africa, we went to Kenya. We went to Australia. We went to Tasmania, which I guess is part of Australia technically.
We've Russia. Actually, you know what?
We went to Russia.
We've covered basically the globe, haven't we? Really?
It's true. No, let's not get carried away, Devon. It's only a few countries, you know. It's not an accomplishment as much as you think it is. Wow, that was good conversation. Devon nailed it. He knows a lot about stuff. He knows a lot about stuff that I don't think anyone knows about at all. So thanks, Devon. Appreciate that. So good conversation. Alright, so I'm gonna sign out here. Don't forget, go to smegcast.com for all your smegcast.com needs. Do subscribe to us on iTunes or on Stitcher or whatever it is you like to subscribe to keep in touch with us. You can send us an email if you like to email or, you know, do old school stuff. Otherwise, talk to us. Let us know you're out there, and you can also like us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Smegcast. Now we're recording another episode next week, so do bear with us, and then we'll have another one out. Like I said, we are recording 2 per month at the moment. Otherwise, thank you for listening.